All right, welcome to Chompin at the Bit. This is episode 2, and with summer coming to a close, fall's right around the corner, and that means it's time for football. So, in the next 2 or 3 episodes, I'm going to go ahead and preview the football season. This episode, I'm going to take the AFC. Next episode, I'll do a preview of the NFC. And in the third episode, I will give you division winners, who I think the playoff teams will be, and who I believe will make the Super Bowl as well. So with that, we can get started with the AFC West, since most sports fans out in the West think there's an East Coast bias. So we'll start out there. So with each team, I will give you their biggest question going into the season. And then with that, kind of give you a best case, worst case scenario. So we start with the LA Chargers. And their biggest question will be the quarterback position. You have Phillip Rivers, who's been a staple there for the past few years, 10, 15 years. And he's gone. You now have Tyrod Taylor, who's expected to be the starter at the beginning of the season. And the question will be, can Taylor play well enough to keep Herbert on the bench, their rookie quarterback from Oregon? Now, looking at Taylor, he's a ball control type quarterback. He doesn't make a lot of mistakes. So we'll just have to see how he plays. If he can not turn the ball over, there's a lot of weapons out there. They should have a decent season. So I think best case scenario is that Taylor plays well. Herbert gets to learn from him for this year, and then maybe he takes over next year. Worst case scenario is that because there are weapons out in LA, but let's say Taylor struggles, they're forced to go to Herbert too soon, and then he struggles. And then looking at the next team, you have the Raiders, who are now Las Vegas. So have to get used to calling them that. I promise not to call them Oakland at any point this year, or LA. And with Vegas, kind of the same issue, because they have David Carr as their quarterback. And with the new coach, John Gruden, I don't think Gruden is the biggest fan of Carr. But, Carr does have talent. So hopefully Gruden can kind of get the best out of him. They also brought in Mariota as a backup. But I do believe that Mariota is banged up right now. So their quarterback play is also their biggest question going into this year. So best case is Gruden somehow, gets David Carr to play up to his potential. And I think the Raiders will be able to surprise some teams. Worst case is Carr kind of plays middle of the pack. And if Mariota does heal, they'll make the switch to Mariota. But I don't think that's the best for them. Best case would be Carr shows that he can handle that job. So that's something to watch all year with them. Next team out in the West is Kansas City, the reigning Super Bowl champs. So the biggest question for them is, they have everybody coming back. It's whether there's a Super Bowl hangover and maybe they don't play as well as they did last year. So best case scenario is they kind of pick up where they left off last year and make another run at the title. Worst case would be, I'd say, Travis Kelce, their star tight end, is a little banged up right now. So maybe that lingers throughout the year, and maybe their offense doesn't look as potent as it did last year. And the final team out in the West, we have the Denver Broncos coming into this year. There's actually a lot of hype behind them. So, biggest question for them, once again, quarterback situation. They have a young guy, Drew Lock, who's going to be the starter this year. And best case scenario is he shows that, he can tap into the talent that he was touted as coming out of Missouri. And he can, surprise a lot of teams. Because Denver does have an advantage being, Mile High Stadium. So maybe they catch some teams a little tired. And maybe they sneak out some wins and fight for a wild card spot. Worst case is Drew Lock shows that he needs some time to develop. And with the loss of Von Miller, who had an ankle injury, and there's kind of offsetting reports whether he's actually done for the year or maybe he comes back later in the year. Either way, that hurts the defense. So worst case is that they find themselves looking at a high draft pick again. So that takes care of the AFC West. Now we'll head to the AFC South. First team we're going to look at are the Houston Texans. And their biggest question is their offense. So this offseason they traded their top wide receiver DeAndre Hopkins to the Cardinals and got David Johnson, a running back, in return. A lot of people saw that as a questionable move. I did as well. But they also just gave Deshaun Watson a new contract. So they're showing him that, he's going to be the future for the team. So best case scenario is Watson plays at like an MVP level and he kind of puts the team on his back, gets them to the playoffs, and possibly a run at a championship. Worst case scenario is the offense shows that they miss Hopkins and they don't get anything out of David Johnson. And if that were to happen, there could be a lot of trouble down there for Bill O'Brien, the coach. And they would probably miss the playoffs, which would be very disappointing. So, on to the next team in the South, we have the Jacksonville Jaguars. This is a team in a lot of turmoil. So the biggest question is, are they tanking? They've, let go a lot of players since their AFC Championship run a few years ago. Recently letting go their running back, Leonard Fournette. They have a young quarterback in Gardner Minshew. The defense has lost a lot of big name people from a couple of years ago. So, more or less, it's looking like they are trying to get the number one pick. So, best case scenario for them actually would be that they get the number one pick and they are able to pick Trevor Lawrence out of Clemson to take care of their quarterback needs. Worst case scenario is they're still going to be bad, but they're not bad enough to get a top pick, and they kind of sit in mediocrity, which is the worst place to be, where they're not quite good enough for the playoffs, but they're not bad enough for a top pick. And then we have Indianapolis Colts. So the Colts picked up Phillip Rivers. That was their biggest move in the offseason. And the question for the team would be, can Phillip Rivers, behind a great offensive line and a pretty good wide receiver group, can he take them to the next level and make them a true title contender? So best case scenario is Phillip Rivers kind of turns back the clock, plays like he did back in his early days with San Diego, and he can lead them to at least the AFC Championship game. Worst case scenario is that, Phillip Rivers plays like he has been the past few years, where he's kind of been on the decline with each year throwing a high number of interceptions, and they disappoint and miss the playoffs. And now the final team in the AFC South, the Tennessee Titans. They're coming off a surprising year last year where they made it to the AFC title game, losing to the Chiefs. And their biggest question would be Ryan Tannehill. Can Tannehill play a full season the same way he played in the playoffs last year, where he played, the best football of his life, beating New England in New England, and like I said, took them to the AFC title game? Worst case scenario is Tannehill goes back to being just another guy, and they have to depend on Derrick Henry again with a run-heavy offense that I believe most defenses will be geared towards this year, and they end up outside of the playoffs as well. So then with that, we'll move to the AFC North, where we have the Baltimore Ravens first. So the Ravens last year were, the hot team all year. Got to the playoffs, lost in their first playoff game. Disappointing season. So the question for this year is, with all the hype of last year, they're coming into this year with the same kind of hype as they have Lamar Jackson, who's an MVP candidate. Can he continue playing at an MVP level? And then use the experience of the playoffs last year and win a couple of games and get to the AFC title game. That's the next step for them. They had a great regular season, lost early in the playoffs. Now you got to win a couple playoff games and at least be in the AFC title game. Worst case is, I would say, kind of like last year. They're going to be good enough to make the playoffs, but will it be, they come up against a team once again that, stops the run, forces Lamar to throw the ball through the air, and he can't do it. And they have another early exit in the playoffs. All right, next team, we have the Pittsburgh Steelers. Now, they have Big Ben coming back from injury, although he's 38 years old. Isn't this most conditioned quarterback, but he's a tough guy. So, best case scenario for them would be that he kind of turns back the clock a little bit, plays back when he had, Antonio Brown and Hines Ward and guys like that, and he was consistently taking them to the playoffs year after year. A couple of AFC title games sprinkled in, a couple of Super Bowl appearances as well. If he can do that, they should be fine because they have an improving defense as well. The worst case is he continues to show his age. He gets hurt again this year, and they end up parading out a bunch of backup quarterbacks that aren't really NFL level, and they end up with another disappointing season and a high draft pick, which Steeler fans aren't exactly used to. Okay, the next team, the Cleveland Browns. Now, this team is an interesting one. They have a lot of talent on offense. Defense is so-so. They were another team that came in last year with a lot of hype behind it, did not live up to expectations. So, Let's see what they can do this year. For me, their biggest question would be, once again, their quarterback, Baker Mayfield. Now, can Baker Mayfield, develop and become a leader on that team and take all those weapons that he has? I mean, he has Odell Beckham, Jarvis Landry, David Njoku, tight end. And if it all clicks for them, they can have a special season and possibly make a deep run into the playoffs. The worst case scenario is they struggle early and Odell and Jarvis become, issues in the clubhouse, and they look to probably move Odell. Because I think the past couple of years, there's been little trade rumors about OBJ. So, worst case is this year, they deal him off by the trade deadline. And then they kind of hit a mini reset once again in Cleveland. The final team in that division are the Cincinnati Bengals. And they're a team coming in with not a lot of expectations. They had a high draft pick last year. They took a quarterback, Joe Burrow, out of LSU. He's expected to start game 1. So with that, rookie coming in, you can't really put high expectations on him. But I'd say the biggest story is their head coach, Zach Taylor. He's supposed to be a up and coming coach in the league, and we'll see what he can do with a supposedly top tier quarterback. Now Burrow may not be that yet, but maybe Taylor can get him closer to that sooner rather than later. So best case is Joe Burrow plays way over his head, is like, rookie offensive player of the year, and maybe he gets them in the back door of the playoffs as like the 7th and final seed. Worst case is, I guess, Joe Burrow struggles all year, because I expect him, no matter what, he'll play all year, and maybe mentally he can't rebound from it, and he becomes damaged after rookie season. I don't see that happening, but it has happened to other rookie quarterbacks, so you never know. So now, on to the final division in the AFC. We have the East, which is for the first time in 20 years, it's kind of wide open. So we'll start with the New York Jets. Biggest story coming out of there would be, I guess, team chemistry, because they dealt a couple of guys in the offseason. The New York media is all over Adam Gase, their head coach. They're wondering if he's the right guy for that team. So he's already on the hot seat. So he's going to have to prove that, he's getting some type of improvement out of that team with Sam Darnold, their young quarterback. Best case scenario, Adam Gase has a great year coaching. Sam Darnold takes the next step, stays healthy all year, and he can lead that team probably backdoor the playoffs, 6-7 seed. I don't see them contending for the division yet. Worst case, Gase just shows he's way over his head. They probably fire him mid-season, and they're back to square one looking for a new coach and completely starting over once again. Okay, the next team would be my New England Patriots. As I said before, I am a Patriot fan. So the biggest question is obviously, how does the team look now that Tom Brady's gone? In case you don't know, Tom Brady left, went down to Tampa Bay. And their new quarterback is Cam Newton, who they brought in this offseason. So, best case scenario is Josh McDaniels, the offensive coordinator, creates an offense that fits Cam Newton's style perfectly. And Cam Newton goes back to, what was it, like 2015 when he led the Panthers to 15-1. Got him to the Super Bowl, so he has like an MVP type year, and they kind of just keep rolling, and he takes them back to AFC title game, possible title run. Worst case scenario is, I guess Cam Newton shows that the past few years where he's gotten hurt, he's kind of damaged right now, and he can't stay healthy. They end up putting Stidham, the guy they drafted in the 4th round a couple of years ago, put him in the starting quarterback position, and he struggles. They miss the playoffs, end up not winning the division for the first time in like 13 years or something. And they missed the playoffs for the first time in forever. All right, the next team are the Miami Dolphins. So the Dolphins are a team coming in this year with a little bit of hype behind them. A lot of people like their coach, Brian Flores, like the kind of program that he's building down there. He came from Bill Belichick's staff, so he's kind of taking a lot of Belichick's, mentality and ways down there to South Beach to try to develop a winner. Their biggest story will be, I would say, Tua Tagovailoa, the rookie quarterback that they took this past draft. How quickly can they get him ready to take over for Fitzpatrick? I don't see Fitzpatrick playing the whole year. I mean, he'll start game 1, but I'm guessing by probably week 6, Tua will take over. So the best case scenario is, while Fitzpatrick is mentoring him, he, wins a good number of games, and then once Tua comes in, he brings a different dynamic as he's a scrambling quarterback, and they can get to maybe 8-9 wins, make the playoffs for the first time in a little bit, and I guess surprise a lot of people in the AFC. Worst case, Fitzpatrick starts, struggles. They go to Tua. Tua isn't completely ready to play yet. He struggles. They go through another year of their rebuild, get a high draft pick again, and Brian Flores is, he's still doing good things down there, but maybe they're not ready yet to take over in the AFC East and contend for a division title. Now the final team, the AFC East, are the Buffalo Bills. Now Buffalo's coming into this year. They have all the analysts saying that they're going to win the division. Like I said, with Tom Brady out of New England, a lot of people are expecting New England to be down, and they feel that Buffalo's ready to take the mantle and run with it. Their biggest question will be, I guess, can they handle the expectation for them to win it all? For them to win the division, not win it all, but to take over for New England. So with that question, best case is Josh Allen turns into a top quarterback in the AFC, a Pro Bowl quarterback. They win the division, and they're going to have a strong defense. They always have that. The questions have always been offensively. So Josh Allen can raise the offense's play, and they make a deep run in the playoffs. Worst case scenario is that they don't take advantage of New England possibly being down. Josh Allen continues to have accuracy issues, and they underachieve and become a, bottom wildcard team, 7th seed, or even miss the playoffs. So with that, that's my breakdown of the AFC teams and their biggest questions coming out of training camp. With no preseason this year, it's going to be a difficult season for some teams. So you'll probably see the first 3-4 games of the year a lot of not necessarily sloppy play, but yeah, you'll probably see some sloppy play, as some teams will take the first couple of weeks as basically their preseason and, try some plays out, try some formations out to see exactly what they have. But like I said in the beginning, the NFL season starts Thursday night with the Texans visiting the Chiefs. So I am pumped and ready for this, because I gotta say, NFL is probably my favorite sport to watch. So I hope you guys are ready to go through the season with me. And like I said, it's gonna be a multi-part episode for the season preview. So I did the AFC on this one. Next episode, I'll preview the NFC. And either in the next episode or the following one, I'll pick my picks for the division winners, the 7 playoff teams in each conference, how I think the playoffs will go, Super Bowl matchup, and Super Bowl champion. So with that, I guess we can kind of end this episode right there. Thank you for tuning in again. Like I said before in the last episode, whichever platform that you're listening to this on, definitely give it a like, a follow, subscribe, whatever's on that platform. Comment section, please leave a comment. If you think any of my predictions are way off base, or you think I did your team dirty, put that in the comment section. And yeah. Oh, so another note. So for the football season, if you do like NFL Pick'em or anything, I plan on probably like every Friday or something, I'll do an episode where I will pick like top games for the weekend and, help you out with some of that. If you are a, gambler, I don't know if you are or not. Maybe I can get you some money. I don't know. But, yeah, so with that, like I said, thanks for tuning in, and be safe out there, and I'll catch you on the next episode. All right.